This morning I was checking my Facebook feed, as I occasionally, too frequently do, probably, and I follow this forum, I guess, page called I effing love science, and it's a combination of like what's happening in science today, kind of inspiring things about the scale of things, like how insignificant we are or how amazing this animal is. And also, as of late, kind of like, I guess, anti-New Age political commentary. And this morning, the post that was on there, somebody had done a Venn diagram, the categories of which were like medical quackery, religious quackery, and two others. And then it proceeded to list everything that, like, everything on there that wasn't like the hardcore fundamental Western scientists thing. So astrology was religious quackery, mantra probably was on there, homeopathy, Ayurveda, that kind of thing. And which really ticked me off, if I'm perfectly honest, but left me kind of like, wondering why does it tick me off? And part of it is that, to me, somehow, like, creating some sort of bridge of understanding is something of value, which is why when you earlier have said things like how we will arrive at things from a kind of empirical starting point rather than kind of an ideological, purchase. That to me is like really cool, really good stuff. And my question really, what's so amazing about the example Rishi Garg, is it? Garg? Rishi Garg?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is exactly as you're saying. It's just coming from that position that would, where they would put him in the, religious quackery in this Venn diagram. He actually was able to produce something that they would put up as a, scientific, great work, and that's incredibly compelling, especially when, like, it's blatantly obvious he didn't have telescopes and lasers to however they do it nowadays. And my question really is, why is it now that it's so easy for that kind of thought to just completely rule out things like astrology and the other what I would call non-causal types of understanding of the world? Why is it just like there's no one as darn good as Rishi Gorg nowadays to, if somebody came along today and did a Rishi Gorg, like, for, string theory, or I don't know, whatever turns people on in modern thought, and they said, there, take that, like, suddenly the whole Western scientific world would say, wait a minute, we need to, like, wake up and actually seriously take a look at this, these concepts that we've just shunned, without really any effort to understand them at all. And why do you suppose that is, and what is the solution to kind of?
I think there's a number of people in the Western academic and scientific establishment that are enormously knowledgeable and have already gone beyond a 19th century mindset and so forth.
Yeah.
I can tell you that one of my teachers, Professor Fritz Stahl, who left us just a couple years ago, who was considered to be one of the really great Western Sanskritists and grammarians of our times. He was also a mathematician, and he was also very close, by the way, interestingly enough, with Noam Chomsky. And in fact, Professor Stahl taught at MIT for a couple of years in the 60s, at the same time Noam Chomsky was there. And of course, when mathematicians read some of Emil Post's work, and especially his anecdotes on deriving this from Panini's grammatical systems in the 5th century BC, people took this serious. And I think that there are a number of people out there. There's a whole field, a micro field now of, I think it's connected with linguistics, that is dealing with Paninian logic in the Western Academy. So what's happened is that the New Age has reduced many of these incredible things to unusable substances that whose value and application is strictly in its marketing. It's like the pet rock. I don't know. I guess maybe Peter or Rico remembers the pet rock. You know, they were selling pet rocks, a rock in a shop for $10, and you'd buy a leash for it, and you'd have to feed it 3 times a day, and the whole thing. And to me, this sums up basically the New Age. Is that, yeah, there's these wonderful ideas, you know, astrology, wow, how great, you could know the future, you could know who to marry, or who to marry off your son or daughter to, or when to do something, or when not to do something, and Ayurveda, you know, not using dangerous chemicals with side effects, using herbs, and all the other things of Indian culture. But then when you take these things and either knowingly or unknowingly reduce it to pet rocks, to things that you can market, you know, one of the trips years ago I made to the States, I was seeing a friend of mine who just had this very wealthy young man visiting her, and she said to me, this guy just made $10 million producing and selling yoga mats. What have you been doing in India all these years? But you see, that's really, you know, what it comes down to. Because look, there's a problem with with sophisticated knowledge and sophisticated taste. It's not for the masses. That's just the way it is. The finer the taste, the finer the knowledge, the finer the things, it's for a more and more elite kind of audience. So somebody who wants to take a brand or create a brand and go out and market a brand and the products contained within that brand and become wealthy and all that other stuff, this is a whole different thing. And of course, it spoils in many ways the reality. And Hari, I hate to say it, but I'm sure that a lot of these things that these people on this page, terrible things they say about New Age, and I probably agree with half of them. and you know, there's a reason for that also. You know, when I first came to India, if I believed everything that everybody told me about the mystical and the magical and the wonderful and the esoteric, you know, I would just turned around in circles for the rest of my life and just not been able to learn or do anything. So you have to develop a sense of discrimination, a sense of taste. You have to know, you know, what's likely to be more substantial, and what's likely to be more flaky, you know, and to not accept everything you hear and not to believe everything that you read and all this other stuff. You know, you can't. I mean, if you're truly interested in knowledge, if you're truly interested in the fine things of the world or thinking and so forth, you have to be very, very discriminating. Otherwise, forget it.
You know, it's like we've talked about the oral tradition being in its kind of its dawn period, and part of the that process is when otherwise discriminating intelligent people, for essentially kind of social reasons, have been bred at a certain into a certain arrogance that stops them from inquiring. You know, everything becomes like an immediate judgment rather than a sort of quizzical inquisition. That's so it's not so much that I'm glad that they're looking at studies and they're trying to see what's good and what's not, but that what's frightens me, I guess, about that mentality, or what bothers me, is that it becomes this kind of like well, it really becomes quite religious, but this kind of like absolute no, and then fast forward 50, 100 years, and people like yourself are gone, and there's an entire chapter of human, incredible, profound, understanding developed over centuries that's just poof gone. And maybe that's maybe I should just say that's how it is and be grateful that I at least get to experience a little tiny bit of it, which I very much am. But part of me wants to, not have these things be so quickly thrown out, baby with the bathwater.
But I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a very interesting quick story, and then we're going to have to wrap up. But President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. And I don't remember the exact time, but it must have been maybe the end of 1964, maybe the beginning of 65, somewhere around then. There was this very intrepid reporter by the name of Mark Lane, who connected with the district attorney of the city of New Orleans by the name of Garrison. And together they wrote a book about the assassination of Kennedy, where they disputed all the findings of the Warren Commission. And in fact, they wrote a book that blamed basically the CIA. They blamed the CIA for doing this thing, right? So I was, I don't know, 14, 15 years old at the time, and read this book, and some of my friends read this book. It was called Rush to Judgment. And we were thinking, my God, they're going to kill these guys, right? They're just going to send people out, and these guys, they're going to kill these guys. You can't write stuff like that. I mean, especially if it's true, They didn't kill them. They didn't do anything to them. What happened was that within the next year, about 150 different conspiracy books came out on the Kennedy assassination, blaming everyone from the Queen of England to the lizard people from Mars for doing this. And so here you are, you're an average person, wow, what happened? They killed our president. I want to find out, oh, there's all these. How do you know which book to read? How do you know which is something that is legitimate, that has substance? How do you know which is the flaky one? And the answer is, in those days, that it wasn't so difficult to determine that. But by today, the magnitude is so much larger that, I mean, really, we are just completely overwhelmed with ideologies and theories and interpretations and classes and weekend seminars and teacher training classes. and that one, and live and online, and in the book, and in the comic book, and God knows what else. So that's the reality of our situation, and that is why things like the oral tradition is nothing close to what it was even 30, 40 years ago, let alone hundreds of years ago. And it's nothing you can really do about it. You just, the best thing is to, understand what's happening and be a witness to what you can be a witness to in your life, and hopefully pass it down, to your kids or to your students or to, whoever you have to pass it down to. But other than that, you can't lead a sort of a protest march down Fifth Avenue. That's not going to really solve the problem. Make a page on Facebook or something, that's not going to do it. The only thing that's going to do it is whispering it into the ears of your beloved. Okay. We're a few minutes over, but the Google gods are not on our case or anything like this. So this is what I wanted to do, though, is I'm going to see if I can put together this outline that are my notes and put it up on the community page. I didn't want to put it up actually before I started talking about it, because I want you to really listen to me and try and get it in a very sort of raw kind of thing that you can question. You can question me online, and now I'll send you this. I'll put up this outline so that you have some of my very specific words and structure for thinking about this, and we'll continue next week, at least part of the session, with ways that things resemble each other, and then we'll start to move on back to the syllables and speech, so we can see how that direct application and identification takes place. God bless
Wonderful.
you all. Goddess bless you all. Let all the gods and goddesses bless you all. And I'll see you next week, and hopefully communicate with you in the meantime. Om Namo Narayana.
Om Namo Narayana.